is being recorded.
Darren, whenever you are watching this video, I'm Tiffany. I'm excited because this is all about you. I'm here to do your flight assessment breakdown. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about understanding and activating the power of who you already are. As Sherry says, stop spending 100% of your time on 10% of who you are. Darren, this is your blueprint, not just for how you work, but how you lead, communicate, and show up with more peace and purpose. It's about unlocking the best version of what's already there, gaining self awareness, understanding your natural and adaptive styles, and unlocking your potential using your unique God given strengths and using them intentionally. Before we get started, let's review what the four behavior styles measure. Think of that flight attendant. He or she is in the cabin with the people. This measures your interactiveness, your preference toward interacting with and influencing others. Next is a ground screw, the supportive, stabilizing, steadiness. This portion measures one's preference for pace and workflow in a given environment. Air traffic control, they sit in the tower, they're systematic, they see everything. This measures your natural taste for details, your tendency for dealing with rules, protocols, and given systems. And last, the pilot, the person that gets it done, pushes forward. This category determines one's preferred approach to solving problems and making decisions. So now, Darren, let's take a look at where you lie on the flight assessment. Slide with me to page 7, and we're going to talk about your natural and adaptive style. The color bars, the blue, the orange, the green, the red, that's how you naturally are when there's no stress, nobody's watching, you feel no pressure, just naturally who Darren is. The gray bars are what we call adaptive, meaning there's some stress, you feel like somebody's watching you, you're being observed, just some changes in your environment. This is how you adapt and shift that behavior. It's like writing with your right hand, it's natural, you don't think about it. Or I say right hand, but you might be left handed. So let me say writing with your dominant hand. If I were to ask you to write your name with your dominant hand, it would take you no time at all, something you do effortlessly, probably with your eyes closed. But then if I ask you to switch to your left, less dominant hand, now you're trying to figure out, oh, how do I write this letter? This feels awkward. It's a little more stressful and it'll probably take you a little longer because it's just not naturally how you move. That's what these gray bars are. It's how you adapt to when there are shifts and challenges. And the longer the gray bar, the more room or adaptability and flexibility you have in that behavior style. The smaller it is, the less room you adapt in that environment. So let's talk about how you show up for each one. Your flight attendant, you are at a 67, right here with expressive. So you bring that energetic, engaging presence that makes it easy for others to feel comfortable around you. You enjoy collaboration and conversation, and your warmth helps people open up quickly. You strike a balance between being social and keeping appropriate boundaries. You can connect easily without being overly trusting. You have a natural enthusiasm that makes people feel comfortable, open up, but it's balanced. You don't need to be the loudest voice to make an impact. Now let's talk about how you adapt. You can flex upward or adapt upward toward energetic when enthusiasm and momentum are needed, using your charisma to inspire action and keep the atmosphere positive. You can easily turn up the energy to match the moment, whether that's leading a discussion, motivating a group, or just breaking through some tension with optimism. Or you can flex downward toward that sociable, friendly area when the environment calls for more calm connection, being approachable, that being steady or easygoing. This adaptability allows you to read the room, adjust your emotion or tone quickly, making you both engaging and relatable. Because you know how to regulate your presence, people tend to feel comfortable and included around you. You lead connection without forcing it. When you pair that warmth and with intentional focus, your communication doesn't just engage others, it drives clarity, motivation, and trust. That's where your influence turns into that real impact. Now let's talk about your grounds crew. You are at a 44 at that outgoing consistency phase. So you value consistency and dependability, but you don't like to be boxed in with too much routine. You can be steady when needed, yet you crave a variety and flexibility. You prefer structure that supports progress, not structure that slows things down. This gives you that ability to adapt quickly when plans change without losing focus on the goal. You value relationships and reliability, but you don't enjoy being stuck in routines that feel repetitive or restrictive. You thrive when there's enough structure to stay organized, but enough flexibility to keep that momentum alive. Now let's talk about how you flex and how you adapt. When you flex upward, you're thoughtful. When the situation calls for patience or understanding, you can slow that pace down to consider how decisions may affect others. You can shift into a reflective gear when people need time, reassurance, or empathy from you. On the other side, you can flex downward toward impatient. When things move too slowly or when unnecessary obstacles get in the way, in those moments, your natural desire for movement and efficiency kind of take over. So you may push for those faster results or feel restless waiting on others to catch up. This pacing dynamic makes you highly responsive. You can adjust your tempo to fit the team or task, though it requires some awareness to ensure that you don't rush through reflection or overthink yourself into hesitation. You do bring that stability without getting stuck, which makes you effective in those fast-paced or changing environments. That thoughtfulness can sustain trust, and then that urgency here can sustain results. So you find that rhythm between the two, and you become dependable and dynamic. Let's talk about your air traffic control. You are at a 40 right here at reasonable. So that means you bring a practical and level-headed approach to how you organize, plan, and make decisions, how you respond to given rules and procedures. You value structure, but not just for structure's sake. You want systems that make sense, create flow, not ones that slow things down. Your reasonable nature means you tend to find the middle ground between that order and adaptability. You like when expectations are clear, but not too rigid, that it makes it difficult to get things done. You appreciate process and preparation, but you also believe that progress sometimes means taking a calculated leap rather than waiting for every detail to align before you make a move. How you flex? You can flex upward toward organized when situations call for precision, like accountability or control, like when details matter, or when you need to bring clarity to chaos. In that mode, you can tighten your structure. You rely on logic, and you can hold yourself and others to that standard of execution. You flex downward to free spirited when you feel confident in your environment or when creativity and collaboration are needed. In this space, you loosen that grip on order and trust your instincts and allow that flexibility to kind of take lead. This like adaptive swing between order and openness helps you stay both dependable and approachable, but it also means your comfort depends on reading that moment accurately. Too much structure can feel restrictive for you, while too much freedom might feel make you feel like a little scatterbrain. Next, let's talk about your pilot. At a 64, excuse me, you're ambitious. You bring a forward focused, goal-driven energy that keeps you and those around you progressing. Ambition comes naturally to you. You like to see results, set direction, and know that your effort is making an impact. You don't just want to complete tasks, you want to achieve outcomes that matter. You have confidence in your ability to make decisions and move things forward, but you know how to weigh logic and timing before acting. Your ambition isn't impulsive, it's intentional. You like momentum, but not chaos. Movement, but not without meaning. How do you flex? You flex upward here to decisive when clarity and leadership are needed. In that mode, you move quickly, assert yourself with confidence, and you can provide direction that cuts through confusion. You're comfortable taking charge when a decision must be made or when others hesitate. You flex downward to practical when the environment calls for patience, collaboration, or shared ownership. In that space, you can stay grounded in reason, seeking realistic outcomes over aggressive ones. You know how to pull back and keep harmony when you need to pause to ensure alignment. This ability to shift between that determination and diplomacy makes you adaptable in leadership. It allows you to move between that driving and guiding without losing that momentum. The key thing, though, Darren, about these four behavior styles, and when it comes to natural and adaptive, natural is your home, it is who you naturally are. But when you start to try to live here at energetic or at sociable, you start to try to live here at thoughtful or impatient, same for organized or free spirited. Natural is where you live, that's your home. But this adaptive bars, that's where you visit. You can't stay there. So if you find yourself living at the top or bottom of one of these bars, that could be where some of the anxiety, if there's any stress, if there's any overwhelm, it might be because you are trying to live in an adaptive area, somewhere you should just visit but not live. You got to find ways, and we'll talk about that in a second, on how to stay at your natural and where you are without any stress, so it doesn't cause that overwhelm. Now let's talk about your strengths and limitations. So we talked about a little bit about your strengths for your flight attendant, but any overuse of a strength can become a limitation. So here are your strengths. You show balance, easy to make new friends, care deeply about the feelings and emotions of others, and have a large network of friends. So at 67, if we look at your strengths, that puts us between naturally persuasive to others and charming and easy to talk to. Overuse of that can cause the limitation of often delivers unsolicited advice or vulnerable to being taken advantage of. Because you genuinely care and want to help, you may sometimes offer advice that others haven't asked for. Though it comes from a good place, it can unintentionally make people feel directed instead of supported. Your empathy and willingness to give also mean you can be vulnerable to being taken advantage of by those who mistake your kindness for availability. Over time, that can lead to you feeling drained or undervalued. Your natural warmth and influence are powerful, but they are most effective when paired with those boundaries. So before offering input, pause to ask whether the moment calls for it. And protect your energy by recognizing the difference between being helpful and being responsible for others' outcomes. Next, let's talk about your grounds crew. So your strengths here, balance the desire to support others while still pursuing goals. Another one to point out, be loyal but not to a fault, and be able to empathize with others without getting consumed. At 44, right here, those strengths are in between, exhibits steady and stable behavior patterns. That's that reliability, and you thrive in variety and originality. That's when we talked about earlier, liking a little bit of variety in your pace. Overuse of that, what happens? It can turn into does what is expected but nothing more, or shiny object syndrome. At times, you may do what's required, but stop short of going beyond expectations, especially if you're unsure whether the extra effort will be noticed or valued. When you're not fully engaged, you can slip into that autopilot, doing enough to maintain, but not enough to actually like elevate. On the other side of that, your curiosity and need for variety can trigger that shiny object syndrome where you're drawn to new ideas and tasks before finishing what's already started. That push and pull between comfort and variety and novelty can make it hard to sustain that momentum long enough to see those deeper results and follow through. So before jumping into something new, ask yourself whether you're chasing interest or just avoiding routine. You want to stretch yourself to follow through. The power of that next level isn't it necessarily doing more things, it's doing the right things with that full engagement. All right, let's check out your air traffic control. So your strengths here for air traffic control, non-judgmental with respect to new ideas, able to be detail-oriented without succumbing to that perfectionism, and able to balance respect for established procedures with the willingness to innovate new methods. So at 40, your strength here is able to see details without losing the big picture. You can dive in, but you don't lose sight of what the ultimate goal is. However, overuse of that or just unawareness, you can become involved in multiple projects at once. So because you are capable, dependable, and efficient, it's easy for you to get involved in multiple projects at once. You may find yourself saying yes to too many things, trusting that you can manage them all. While this makes you appear reliable, it can also really spread that focus too thin and cause burnout or just miss some details. So when everything comes a priority, it makes it harder to maintain that level of precision and quality that you actually expect from yourself. Now let's talk about your pilot. Strengths down here, um, strong result focus, maintain the ability to consider other factors, appear strong-willed without seeming overly aggressive. At 64, we go up here, and that's between strong desire to achieve results and likely to take charge in the area of competency. Overuse of that can turn into that limitation of sensitive to failure and inconsistent effort over time. Um, with a score of 64, your natural wiring leans toward like results, progress, and measurable success. When you commit to something, um, you might invest your identity to that outcome. You don't just want to win, you want to do it well and prove your capability. And because of that, when things don't go as planned, you don't just simply see it as a setback, you might interpret it as a reflection of your effort or competence. So, this sensitivity to failure can cause you to carry mistakes longer than necessary or push yourself harder than needed to prove your worth. Additionally, your drive for result intensifies. You may slip into that um, inconsistent effort over time because you aren't getting that gratification that you need. So your ambition toward high standards is what makes you effective, but your next level comes from learning to separate your performance from your identity. Every result doesn't define your worth. It just refines your wisdom. So review those setbacks as information and not indictment. The next page is your adaptive. This describes how you shift your environment, give you some bullet points um, so that you can, this offers some insight for your behavior tendencies under circumstances. Looking at your bullet points, you flex with an awareness and purpose. You know how to adapt your behavior without losing composure or integrity. You place value on relationships and reputation while still holding on to your personal goals. You use natural charm and warmth to connect and influence, but never at the expense of your respect. You move comfortably between structure and spontaneity, appreciating the rhythm of routine while leaving space for that adjustment when life calls for it. You remain loyal to others without sidelining your own progress, and you're willing to push boundaries when growth demands it, while still respecting the systems that make progress sustainable. You go zoom in on the details when precision matters, but then step back to keep that big picture in view. These points show that your adaptability isn't reaction, it's awareness. You flex in a way that balances confidence and consideration and influence and integrity. You can lead with vision and collaborate with ease. This range makes you reliable under pressure and relatable in partnership. Next, we have your motivation. This is the fuel that drives a car. It's the fuel that for that forward motion. These motivators aren't just nice to haves for you. They're non-negotiables to keep you engaged, energized, and at your best. Looking at your bullet points, you're motivated by progress, efficiency, and clear direction. You stay engaged when your pace and intent are understood, not mistaken for pressure or impatience. You benefit from taking time to translate your drive for results so others see it as passion and not urgency. Systems and patterns that streamline decision making help keep you focused and prevent frustration. You're also motivated when you balance leading with learning, recognizing that growth comes not only from taking charge, but from following well. Staying open to new ideas, even when they challenge your usual approach, helps you stay curious instead of rigid. You're most energized when you finish what you start and see results from your effort. And you gain that confidence when you speak up for your perspective, even when it's unpopular. These points show that your motivation comes from forward motion and purpose. You thrive when things make sense, when there's order to the chaos, and when your intentions are clear to others. Systems give you momentum, but it's the connection behind them that sustains you. People trusting your pace and understanding your why. Um, com- Motivation for you isn't just about working harder, it's about aligning your structure, voice, and focus so you can move fast and stay grounded. Next, let's talk about your self care. So, if the motivations was how you put fuel in the tank, your self care is what keeps the engine running. And here's the truth, it doesn't matter how much fuel is in the car if that engine isn't good. These bullet points answer the question, what conditions help me feel steady, safe, and restored so that you can keep showing up at your best? Looking at your bullet points, you operate best when your environment feels stable and predictable. You recharge through independence and space to think rather than that constant interaction or high pressure. You're most at ease when there's a clear why behind your effort. Something greater than when there's a clear why behind your effort, something that's greater than the conflict or discomfort of the moment. You thrive in roles that offer quick wins and straightforward systems rather than like drawn out or overly complicated processes. Established routines and minimal change help you feel secure, while opportunities to express your perspective and have your voice heard help keep you connected and engaged. These points show that self-care for you isn't just rest, it's a rhythm. You find peace and order, clarity and simplicity. Too much unpredictability or red tape drains you because it clouds your focus and control. You protect your energy when you work in environments with consistent processes, but room to think independently. Don't mistake stability for stagnation. Balance structure with moments of expression and growth, and when you honor your need for calm while staying connected to purpose, you create that kind of stability that doesn't slow you down, it sustains you. So for this page, so the motivation page was about momentum. The self-care page was about maintenance. This opportunity for growth is about maturity and expansion. So we're going to look at these bullet points. For you, with these bullet points, your growth comes from staying true to who you are, not who you think you need to be. Don't adopt that hard bottom line or life of the party attitude if that's not authentically you. You're most interactive when your confidence shows up as calm steadiness rather than performance. While your fast pace is a natural strength, it can also put you at risk for burnout. Sometimes rest is the investment that refuels the results. Growth also comes from guarding your time, talent, and energy so they are not overused by others. You benefit from fostering connections that energize you and embracing vulnerability with people you trust to avoid that self isolation. Finally, consider that there might not always be a perfect or definitive best choice. Sometimes leadership means making the decision right instead of waiting on the right decision. These points reveal that for you, it isn't about changing who you are. It's about releasing who Darren thinks you should be. You don't need to become harder, louder, faster, or prove strength. True maturity for you, Darren, is going to come from through boundaries, rest, authenticity, protecting your space from overextension, but also protecting your heart from isolation. Your connection also does fuel your clarity. And perfection you might be chasing isn't found in those flawless choices. It's found in the faithful follow through. So honor who you are and lead from that grounded authenticity, and your growth won't look forced, it will look effortless. Next is your perception. Perception is reality. This page is about how others see you, and how to lean into what works while closing the gaps on what could hold you back. Some perceptions are your superpower, and then some are opportunities for growth as well. What your bullet points say is others see you as approachable, lighthearted, naturally likable. You tend to put people at ease, and your charm comes through without effort. You're known for being balanced in conversation, able to listen well, and share your perspective without dominating. People appreciate that you don't take yourself too seriously, yet you still project competence and thoughtfulness. You seem to carefully consider options before making decisions, which communicates depth, though it can sometimes be read as hesitation or skepticism toward new ideas. Because you ask clarifying questions and pay attention to detail, you can be perceived as inquisitive or occasionally uncertain. You may also appear deeply interested or invested in others' lives, which can be seen as caring or at times overly involved. The bullet points highlight a powerful duality in how you're perceived. You come across as both approachable and analytical, charming yet methodical. People trust your composure and clarity, but may not always see the confidence behind your curiosity. Remember, your thoughtful questions aren't signs of doubt. They're part of what makes you insightful and valuable. The key is to let others feel your certainty while still showing your warmth. That means voicing what you know, not just what you're exploring. Continue to use your natural ease to balance and connect, but pair it with visible confidence in your perspective. When you lead with that authenticity, confidence, and conviction, your influence doesn't just earn respect, it earns trust. And people don't just experience what you do, but they experience who Darren is. Next, we have your communication do's and don'ts. This page shows communication approaches that bring out the best in Darren and ones that can throw Darren off track. The goal isn't to avoid every don't situation, it's to recognize when it's happening and manage your response so you stay in control. When looking at these, you want to take out the word them, affirm me when possible. Um, my confidence benefits from sincere affirmations. So when you're reading these, uh, take out them and put me in there. Here, don't downplay my accomplishments or status. So that's how you want to read this page. And looking at your bullet points, you value communication that feels genuine, patient, and balanced. You engage best when others actively listen and stay fully present in conversations with you. You want to know that your input matters just as much as theirs. You appreciate when people mix personal connections with business topics, blending that warmth and purpose. And you process ideas out loud. So it helps when others let you speak, explore, and verbalize before decisions are made. You prefer a moderate tone and an even pace that gives you time to think clearly. And sincere affirmation goes a long way in building your confidence and trust. On the flip side of the don'ts, communication that feels rigid, rushed, or dismissive can shut you down. You need pace in conversation for clarifying questions and detailed explanations. You respond best when things are presented as possibilities, not ultimatums. So avoid speaking, when speaking with you, people should avoid speaking as though decisions are final or immovable. Rapid speech or overselling ideas or extreme bluntness can feel overwhelming. At the same time, being vague or indirect communication is equally frustrating. You prefer a balance, honestly, like clear, steady, and respectful. Keep the conversation focused on the bigger picture rather than getting lost in those details. And for you, never downplay your contribution for successes. And for you, that recognition affirms your value and keeps you engaged. The bullet points show communication for you is about trust and tempo. You connect most when the dialogue, both has rhythm and respect. You think before you speak and you value when other people do the same. You're not looking for flash, you're looking for understanding. And the best conversations for you are collaborative exchanges, not quick transactions. The next page, Darren, this is the work. After hearing this and seeing this and taking it all in, these are kind of like journal entries. These are questions that you can ask yourself and process them and write the answers down. You can engage in other conversations with other people, your EL coach, and really think these through as you process the things that have been said here. So in closing, your assessment shows a high level of adaptability within each behavior style, meaning you can stretch far in multiple directions depending on the situation. You can bring warmth and connection when the moment calls for it. It's a flight attendant, patience and steadiness when others need that stability, that's that ground screw in you. Logic and order when clarity is missing, that's that air traffic control. And confidence and direction when directions are required. That's that pilot. This kind of behavior range gives you unique versatility. Few people can shift gears as smoothly and as naturally as you can. But this flexibility can create invisible tension. Because you can adjust so easily, it's possible to start blending into what's needed rather than standing firm in who Darren is. You may notice that people experience different versions of you depending on the setting. Each one can be accurate now, but not always aligned. Over time, this can make you effective but quietly drained, respected but not always seen. I'm going to steal a quote from Sherry here. Stop managing your personality and start mastering your gift. This is exactly what your results are pointing to. You don't have to change who you are to grow. You just have to use more of who you already are on purpose. Talking about that gift, your adaptability isn't the problem, it is the gift. It allows you to meet people where they are, lead across personalities, handle pressure with calm precision. Yet, your next level comes from anchoring your identity inside of that flexibility. The more you choose who shows up, instead of letting the moment decide, the more powerful and consistent your impact becomes. Adaptability is your superpower, but your identity is your foundation, Darren. When your adaptability serves your authenticity instead of replacing it, your influence deepens, your energy stabilizes, and your leadership becomes unmistakably your own. Darren, your flight assessment results show you're a rare kind of versatility. You can shift, stretch, and adapt and fit to almost any environment. You read people and situations quickly, adjusting your pace, tone, and presence with ease. That adaptability is what makes you dependable and effective in nearly every setting. But even a chameleon whose brilliance lies in its ability to blend has a true color beneath that shifting skin. And when it changes too often, it can become invisible. That same is true for you. A chameleon that never stops changing eventually comes invisible. That same happens when you flex so much that your authenticity fades from view. Your ability to flex is your strength, but your identity is what gives that strength direction. The goal isn't to stop adapting, it's to anchor your adaptability in your authenticity. Define the part of you that remains steady no matter what the situation is, whether that be your mindset, your values, your voice, that represent your true color. Because when you are your base shade, your natural shade, every adjustment becomes intentional and not reactive. You won't just fit in anywhere, you'll stand out everywhere. The future won't remember how well you blended in. It's going to remember the most your authenticity stood out and shifted the room. So, Darren, thank you for joining Exponential Living and being coached and being open to hearing new information so that you can grow and be your best self and be successful. That is it for the flight assessment review, and I look forward to meeting you.